What is up, guys? It's Jamie. So I want to thank you guys firstly about my last video. I got a lot of overwhelming support. I have been doing a group therapy. It's a queer group therapy that has been helping out a lot, and I've also been seeing my therapist, and I definitely see me going up. It's still a lot of work, but I'm going up, and your guys' support has definitely helped out a lot. Thank you guys so much for sending me get well stuff. It's really great, and I just wanted to not make people feel bad for me, but I kind of wanted to put out there that, yeah, even though you go through transition and almost complete with transition, you still get depressed about things, so I wanted to thank you guys. But today's video, I want to try to help people understand the difference between sex, gender, and the social constructs put around gender. I personally believe that even though the most educated professors, teachers, and LGBT advocates sometimes just forget how complex gender truly is. Is it nature, meaning is it biology? Is it something that goes on in your brain while you're in the womb? Or is it nurture, something you're raised on, challenged, etc.? The reason why I bring this up is because I believe there's a big divide within the transgender community. Many people who fall under the umbrella term transsexual may believe it's something that's more nature, some biology caused it. Why would we ever want to live like this? Other queer, non-binary, or other varying genders may believe gender is something that's more socially constructed. Remember, transgender is this huge umbrella term and encompasses many different gender identities and expressions. I must warn you guys, this video is going to be scripted, and so I'm going to be looking down at my notes a lot, and it's going to be kind of long, but I want to ensure that I'm putting out the best information I can. And in order to do that, it's going to make this video sort of long, so bear with me, but it's going to be a good one with a lot of information. Okay, so I drew this thing out. This is going to be basically the three things. We have sex, gender, and gender constructs. It is pretty basic, and we are going to start right here with sex. So sex is really basic. It is the biology you are born as. Meaning, do you have a penis or do you have a vagina? Do you have XY chromosomes or XX chromosomes? However, sex isn't as black and white, male or female, as you believe. There is so many different sexes because there are things called intersex conditions that leave the genitals and other factors very ambiguous. There's XX male syndrome. So as you guys know, that XX are typically female chromosomes. XX male syndrome means someone who is chromosomally XX develops penis and testes. Or Swyer syndrome, where someone with chromosomes XY develop female anatomy in ovaries. There's also Klinefelter syndrome, where someone is born with XXY chromosomes, so not 2, but 3 chromosomes. And so what are they described as? They're not fall under the black and white category of male or female. I also read this very interesting article the other day. I can't remember the name, but it was about this tribe in like Papua New Guinea, and there was these people that were born anatomically female, and then by the time they turned 12 years old, they grew penis and testes, and then they lived their life out as men, which I thought was kind of fascinating. Overall, there are 96 recorded different intersex conditions. So just on this line, there isn't 2, male or female, that we know of. So far, there's 96 that fall in between. That is a lot of different conditions that just revolve around. Okay, so now we're on to the 2 important ones, gender and gender constructs. Okay, so first we're going to start here with gender, and I put the same labels. I have female and male here. So gender is how you envision yourself. Most say it's actually in between your ears, meaning your brain, and it's something that I believe that occurs while you are in the womb. Typically, for example, if you are born male, meaning your genitals appear male, your gender is also going to align male. But sometimes that isn't the case. As for me, I was born male, meaning my genitals were male, and my brain was developed female. This is something that is proven by science, and you can actually see with your eyes on this graphic that I'm going to put up, and it's a very interesting graphic. As you guys can see, you can see that there is a male brain, a heterosexual male brain, a homosexual male brain, a heterosexual female brain, and then a trans M to F brain. And you can see that the M to F brain is actually more similar to the female brain than it is to its male counterparts. So I believe gender is truly biological. I also believe that gender isn't black or white like female. It is something that can be put on a spectrum. I am going to use the pronoun called they to put this right in the middle. Oh my gosh, that's so much harder to write out. So they. I'm going to put they right in the middle. There's also so many different genders, and I don't believe, if you refer back to that graphic, who says that you can't be somewhere in between a male or a female brain? So I believe that there's many different gender identities that can fall across the gender spectrum. Okay, so this is something that I think goes along with gender and transsexuals. Okay, so gender is very biological, and gender can be on the spectrum, and if your sex does not align with your gender, it causes something called dysphoria. Dysphoria is extreme discomfort with some parts of your body because your brain believes it's not supposed to be there. For example, a trans man may feel very dysphoric around his chest because it's not how his mind envisions his chest to look like. As for me, I was super dysphoric of facial hair. I hated facial hair, and it caused me such severe dysphoria, which led to really severe depression, and I just I could not handle facial hair. I hated it on me so much, and it really did cause me some great discomfort. Now here's the controversial part. I do not believe all trans people have a biological mismatch with their brain and their sex or genitals. Rather, they're more uncomfortable with the social constructs placed on them, and they challenge those constructs, such as what is feminine and what is masculine. And so now we're going to go down here, and I just see I erased feminine, but we're going to go down to gender constructs with feminine and masculine. Okay, so now on to gender constructs. I believe this is where a lot of divide occurs within the trans community, because we as a society define what is masculine and what is feminine. I would say more than 95% of the population out there is actually very comfortable with the gender constructs put on them, such as girls wear makeup and dresses and paint their nails, and guys are competitive, tough, strong, sporty, and muscular. Remember, what I just listed off are just stereotypes, and that's kind of the point of these gender constructs, is many people want to challenge these, but I'm just doing very stereotypical gender constructs. These gender constructs, I believe, is where the divide begins with trans people, because a lot of transsexuals are actually okay with living in their gender constructs. So they may not be, these may not align. So someone who is male may identify as female, but they're comfortable. They are comfortable defining themselves under the feminine gender constructs. They are okay living in a reality where their gender is constructed. You know, they like that. For example, I would believe, I'm just projecting here, but I believe someone like Gigi Gorgeous is very comfortable with gender constructs of being a woman. Then there are those who want to challenge the boundaries. These people do not believe dresses are just for women or makeup's just for women. They challenge the social constructs we have been placed around gender, because in reality, wearing a dress isn't a female thing. Wearing makeup isn't a female thing. Actually, if you go back to even Egyptian times, or maybe even early in the US history, men wore makeup all the time. So really, we just, as a society, place these ideas that, oh, wearing makeup is feminine, or being sporty is masculine, when in reality, these things aren't true, and these people out there are challenging this idea of what makes people feminine and what makes people masculine. So I truly believe that these people that challenge these gender constructs may not be dysphoric with their misalignment with their bodies and minds, meaning they don't have a misalignment with their sex and gender. These two correspond. What is different is they don't align with their gender and gender constructs. And this is where the separation begins, because transsexuals are a difference between sex and gender, and maybe their gender and gender constructs align, and some other non-variant genders may be a misalignment with the gender and gender constructs. And as you can see, this can probably cause some friction amongst the community. And like I said, this is where friction is caused amongst the community. This is where separation begins, because many of the transsexuals are linked with these people who do not conform with the gender constructs, and they feel they are misrepresented by media, because the two different groups live two completely different realities. So I'm going to talk about a trans YouTuber who's actually very controversial, and she made a video about kind of talking about a gender terrorist, and I believe this gender terrorist is comfortable with their sex and gender, but they're not comfortable with gender constructs put around them, and that can be very controversial for some transsexual people who also identify within the trans community. This YouTuber is named Blair White, and she makes out a very, very interesting point that I see where I live. So I live in a very, very liberal, affluent town. This town is mainly very, very white. When people come and visit, they're like, wow, this town is so diverse, and it's not diverse with different people of color or anything like that. What's diverse about it is there's a big spectrum of different white people and their realities. And one thing that I found very interesting that confirmed what Blair White was saying was that most people that identify where these don't align, where their gender and gender constructs don't align, are typically middle class, white, I'm not going to say pronouns, but middle class, white, and Western. And people that are middle class, white, and of Western society are taking up these identities, and I think that is something very interesting. I believe that there's something different behind it than maybe with Blair White. Blair White believes that it's something to do with they want to be considered oppressed. I'm not really sure if I want to go completely in that boat, but I thought that was a very, very interesting observation, was that many of these people that do identify somewhere where they don't align with the gender constructs are white people who are very affluent middle class. Something to think about. And another thing is that some of these people that may have identities that align down here, I'm not going to name these identities because I do think some of the identities are falling up here, and I do think some people truly cannot change these identities, but I think some people can change these identities, and it's not biological, it's a choice. I think some of these people that identify down here, they're conditioned, they claim that they're oppressed and all this stuff, but one thing that I find interesting is these identities that are down here, they're not universal. They do not occur around the world. They only occur in the Western society, typically in white, affluent neighborhoods. So that is something that is very interesting, because if you guys know a little something about trans history, people who are considered transsexual or two-spirited or something like that are found all over the world. However, people that identify down here are not found all over the world, and it's more of a socially constructed identity. Okay, so this is what I believe. I believe the world is split into two boxes. We have a masculine box, we have a feminine box. Some of the words in here are what society describes as masculine, okay? The words in here are what describe the women and stuff as feminine. So one thing that I think is very interesting is their basic emotions. There's actually 7 basic emotions, and some of the basic emotions are in the feminine box, meaning men aren't allowed to feel sad. Men aren't allowed to be emotional, stuff like that. When in reality, you need a healthy balance of being able to express sadness and express these emotions that society deems feminine. I also believe that there's some things in this box that are actually going to be more female traits and going to be more masculine traits, male traits. Traits such as nurturing. I think females are more biologically hardwired to be more nurturing. And the reason behind this is because they are the one that come in first contact with their kids. They're young. They're the ones that are mostly responsible for raising their child and making sure they live on to live a healthy life and actually just survive. You know, that's not human, that's evolutionary. Every animal does that. I also think there's more masculine traits that are only subject or more subject to male and are actually healthy on the masculine side. Traits such as protective. You know, I believe men are more protective, and the reason behind this is because they need to protect their partner, their feminine partner, typically speaking in the terms of evolution here, because their partner is the one that is nurturing their baby, and they need to protect that because that is also their offspring. I do think that there's very distinct words in here that are more feminine, more masculine. However, I would say that is very few, and as you guys know, these boxes are going to be much bigger with way more words in them. And I really do think that more than 95% of the words in these boxes are just socially constructed and not really pertaining to masculine or feminine things. And I really do think more than 95% of these words really do hinder or hurt the result of human evolution and human progress. So yeah, some traits in here are good. Some masculine traits in here are good for men to show off. Some feminine are good, but most of them, I believe, are truly bad. And some feminine traits are like women wearing makeup. Men can't cross this line, or that term can't cross this line into the masculine box, because if you cross over that line, it is like Mean Girls reference, it is basically social suicide, and you cannot do that. So what I would like to propose is, you know, I think every identity out there, and you know, I personally do have a struggle with some people who challenge the gender constructs. I do. I'm going to admit that. I'm human and I'm uncomfortable with it. But just because I'm uncomfortable with it doesn't mean they're wrong. Okay? And I want to challenge myself and other people out there to really try to erase this line. Okay? And rather than make this a line, make it an encompassing bell curve. And that is a terrible bell curve. But really try to embrace all the different buzzwords and identities in there. One thing that I found interesting, though, is I do think, because, for example, I am very sporty and such, and I do cross over into the masculine line a lot. But one thing that I found interesting, and this is totally up to the person, is before I first started transitioning, I took this test, and it was called, Are You Really Transgender? And the test said, how do you envision the world, your perfect world? Would you envision a world where it's full of gray blobs and there is no concept of gender? Or would you rather live in a world where there's a binary, male or female? And I still hold this belief true, and I want to live in a world where there are males and females because I do not like the idea of having gray blobs. But this is my idea. And my idea isn't right or wrong, just like as someone who may want to live in a world of gray blobs. Their idea of wanting to live in a world where there is no gender and we can do anything we want, that's not wrong either. And what we need to learn to do is embrace other people's ideas and not make fun of them, not challenge their identities, not challenge their expressions. We just need to embrace everyone. And that means if you are someone who challenges the gender constructs out there, you need to embrace people who want to live in the binary. And binary people, you need to embrace people who live in the spectrum, or whatever you guys want to call it. So that is my video today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, definitely let me know. There was a lot of controversial stuff in this video, but I truly believe everything that I stated in here will eventually be able to be backed up by science within the next year or two. But if you have any questions, let me know. It is such a complex issue. Gender constructs, and sex. And really, it's not about being nature or nurture. It's going to be a combination of the both. And to be honest, it's so complex, I think it is physically impossible to really weed out what is nature and what is nurture in the expressions, in the way we show ourselves every day. What we need to realize and accept is we are just people, and we are just ourselves, and we need to embrace all other people. Today there was a mass shooting of 50 people were killed in an LGBT nightclub, and it just breaks my heart because these are people that are trying to live out their lives just like me. This is why I live stealth, and they go out every single day and they are ridiculed, and no one should be ridiculed for who they are. Everyone should be loved for who they are, whether that is something you choose to challenge gender constructs, or someone that you just think you're naturally born this way. And we just need to stop hating and do some more loving. So with that, I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye guys.